What's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Time Wizard deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this one for you guys because this deck is an extremely nostalgic deck that I've included all sorts of spicy tech cards in this build for you guys. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. So without further ado, let's go and get straight on into this. So first off, we're playing 3 copies of the Time Wizard. Time Wizard is an amazing and extremely nostalgic card with the ability that once per turn, you can actually toss a coin and call it, and if you call it right, destroy all monsters that your opponent controls. And if you call it wrong, destroy as many monsters that you control as possible, and if you do, take damage equal to half the total attack of those destroyed monsters that they had on the field. We then play 2 copies of the Baby Dragon. Baby Dragon is an amazing 2-of in the build that actually helps us going for some really cool fusion plays, like stepping into Thousand Dragon. We then play 3 copies of Keeper of Dragon Magic. Keeper of Dragon Magic is an amazing normal summon in the build, but if this card is normal or special summon, you can actually discard a card to add a polymerization normal spell card or a fusion normal spell card from your deck to your hand. You can also reveal a fusion monster in your extract and then special summon one of its materials that's specifically listed on it from your graveyard in face down defense position, which is a great effect to help us summon out all sorts of cool monsters back to our side of the field. We then play 3 copies of King of the Swamp. King of the Swamp is definitely a 3-of in the build because this card is a fusion substitute monster, but this card also helps us search polymerization by discarding this card to the graveyard. We then play 3 copies of Primite Dragon. Primite Dragon is really good in the build as a 3-of because this card helps us get to our copy of Baby Dragon through Lordly Load, with the ability that if this card is normal summon, we can actually set a Primite spell or trap from our deck to our side of the field, which is a great ability to get to our copy of Lordly Load, Roar, or even Drill Beam. We then play a single copy of the ultimate wizard in terms of attacking events, the Dark Magician. Dark Magician is really good as a 1-of in the build because this card actually helps us step into an insane card, and that's actually the Dark Sage. Dark Sage is an extremely nostalgic card and super cool to be able to play in the deck because it's one of the most difficult monsters to summon in the entire game. This card has the ability that this card can only be special summoned from your hand or your deck by tributing a Dark Magician on your side of the field after you succeed in the effect of Time Wizard. And this card has the ability that when this card is special summoned, you actually get to add a spell card from your deck to your hand, which is a really powerful effect, but it's so cool to be able to include this card in the build. We then play a single copy of Fallen of Albaz. Fallen of Albaz is great as a 1-of in the build because this card opens up branded fusion plays, and this card is also a walking super polymerization. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is definitely a 3-of in the build to basically just stop the opponent from touching the deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is definitely a 1-of in the build to help us go for some insane boss monsters like Mirror Jade or Red Eye's Dark Dragoon. We play a single copy of Pot of Prosperity. Pot of Prosperity is great to help us dig into the deck for the exact cards that we need. We play a single copy of Magicalized Fusion. Magicalized Fusion is an insane card in this build to basically just help us go in for some fusion plays because this card is actually a miracle fusion for this deck. We then play a single copy of Magician's Right Hand. Magician's Right Hand is awesome because this card actually stops our opponent's spell cards, with the ability to negate the effect of your opponent's first spell card or effect that resolves each turn while you control a spellcaster monster. We then play 2 copies of Magician's Restage. Restage is great in the deck because this card is actually a monster reborn for Time Wizard, as this card has the ability to target a level 3 or lower spellcaster type monster in your graveyard and special summon it. We play a single copy of Primite Roar. Primary Roar has a great ability to pay 2,000 life points to special summon a null monster directly from your deck to your side of the field, like Dark Magician or Baby Dragon. But this card is awesome in the build to instantly bring out your card, and is basically an unexpected die in the deck that is searchable, but you have to control no monsters when you want to summon out that card to your side of the field. We play a single copy of Drill Beam. Drill Beam is great because this card is actually a negate and a banish in a searchable form, which is so cool to instantly get to this card, and it's a really awesome card to be able to use in this build. We then play 3 copies of Lordly Load. Lordly Load is great as a 3F in the deck because this card helps out a lot, as when this card is actually activated, you get to add a Primite card from your deck to your hand, which is a great ability to search out cards like Drill Beam, the Primite Dragon, or even a copy of Roar directly from your deck to your hand off this card's effect. This card also has a really cool ability to declare a null monster card's name, and then special summon 1 declared null monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard in defense position, which is a great ability to instantly bring out the Dark Magician, or bring out a copy of Baby Dragon. We then play 3 copies of Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment is awesome in the build because we can summon out all sorts of cool cards like the Dark Magician, or a copy of Baby Dragon, Time Wizard, or even Fallen of Albaz off this card's effect by just revealing a fusion monster in our extract that specifically lists those cards in its materials. We then play 3 copies of Polymerization. Polymerization is great as a 3F in the build to basically just help us go in for our fusion plays, and this card is awesome in the deck. We then play 3 copies of Super Polymerization. Super Poly is awesome in the deck to help you just break your opponent's board and go in for a really cool fusion play. So that's it for the main deck, guys. We do not play any traps. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to start off with Time Wizard of Tomorrow. Time Wizard of Tomorrow is great because this card specifically mentions Time Wizard as a material and then any effect monster, making it a really good super poly target, but it also has an insane ability that once per turn, while you control this fusion summon card, you can actually toss a coin and call it, and destroy as many monsters on the field as possible, and if you do, inflict damage equal to half the total original attack of the destroyed face-up monsters. And if you called the coin toss right, your opponent takes the damage, and if you call the coin toss wrong, you take the damage, which is a really insane effect because this card board wipes regardless, then it does damage depending on the coin toss. We then play a single copy of Thousand Dragon. Thousand Dragon is just so cool to be able to play in the deck and just such a nostalgic card to be able to play in this build. And it does specifically mention Time Wizard and Baby Dragon as materials, so it's really good in the build to be able to just reveal with all sorts of different cards to be able to bring out your different fusion materials. We then play a single copy of Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade is great to be able to summon off your copy of Branded Fusion. It's just an insane boss monster to be able to make in this deck. And play a single copy of Lubellion. Lubellion is great to help you make all sorts of different fusion plays in this build by basically recycling your resources. We then play 2 copies of Albion, 1 to make and 1 to send off of Mirror Jade. This card is basically a walking miracle fusion and great to be able to play in the build to help you go in for your fusion plays. We then play 2 copies of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is crazy powerful in the deck and just an awesome boss monster to be able to make because this card is actually a walking negate. It cannot be targeted or destroyed by card effects, and it's such a powerful card to be able to summon in the deck alongside awesome cards like Time Wizard of Tomorrow because this card actually cannot be destroyed by card effects, so it will actually live through a copy of Time Wizard or Time Wizard of Tomorrow, which is so cool. But this card is awesome to be able to play because we can actually play Dark Magician in the deck, so we can summon out Dark Sage, but you can also use it with Branded Fusion to be able to summon out this card, which is so cool. We play a single copy of Dracos Tapalia. Dracos Tapalia is a great super poly target because this card is actually a walking negate. We then made a single copy of Garua and a single copy of Mud Dragon. These cards are really good to be able to play in the build as basically super poly targets, and they're just awesome in this deck. We made a single copy of Star Source Dragon. Star Source Dragon is great to be able to use against Blue Eyes or any dragon deck, as it just requires a light or a dark dragon monster plus a dragon monster to make this card, so you can easily go into this card using Super Poly to out a Blue Eyes board, making this card a definite one of Super Poly in the deck. We play a single copy of Typhon. Typhon's great to be able to make in this build because this card is basically a walking negate for 3,000 higher attack point monsters, and it's a balance, which is insane. And then finally, we play a single copy of SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight belongs in basically every single deck, and it's just basically a double interruption. Even though we do lock ourselves into fusion summoning, this card is still really good to be able to play in this build. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played a Time Wizard deck before, you should definitely give this deck a try because it's super nostalgic to be able to play, and it's insane how easy it is just to board wipe your opponent using such a nostalgic card, while also summoning out insane cards like the Dark Sage. So, that's gonna do this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell there so you can come for our notifications. Go on, we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.